Catus, Maximus here. Figured I'd do another one of these. This is my nut driver and extractor drawer with some other miscellaneous things. Got a couple of magnifying glasses. Always handy. The older I get, the bigger the magnifying glass I need. Pop those out here. Even have one of these weird ones, which is one of these, I don't know how to describe it, but it's one of these window ones. Some awful small printing on some manuals, and so this thing's actually kind of handy. So I keep it along in there. Anyway, nut drivers. These were these Quins. I didn't like them very much as being spline drive nut drivers. But and the kind of odd system where they are T-handle. Although, it's grown on me a little bit, even though I still don't like how sharp the edge is. But being 12 point, I figured there may be some time when I really would need a 12-point nut driver, so I kept those. I have some random, well, I have the metric and fractional set of the WIA precision nut drivers, which I like, and they are made pretty well. Definitely made to fit in tight spaces, but this was right at the transition where they're finishing out the main Germany old stock. God, camera. Oh, I'm in wide. And transitioning to the Taiwanese, and I think they're all Taiwanese now, which is a little bit unfortunate. And since I had those precision nut drivers a long time ago at like Radio Shack, there were these metal-handled precision screwdriver style mini nut drivers. So I have a set of those, and actually I keep these around just because they are much shorter than the WIAs, and sometimes that makes a difference. And if you're wondering, all sorts of like electronics, cameras, it's actually kind of surprising when you'll run into really microscopic nuts. Do have my set of classic Craftsman USA nut drivers. Still like those, and I have both the stubbies and somewhere in the bottom here we go, I also have the normal length ones. So handy there, kind of a throwback. Trying to get everything in here and settled is always an adventure. I had some miscellaneous things. I couldn't even remember what these were until I opened them up. And I did a video on these a long time ago. These are the wheel stud pilot pins. And particularly like on Volkswagens, they're not lug nuts, they're lug bolts. Which makes put on a wheel much more difficult because you don't have the stud sticking out to hang the wheel on. And so these are to help deal with that issue, like on Volkswagens. You can thread these in, then you can slide the wheel over these. And they actually have a little bowed out section, so it really lines them up pretty accurately and allows you to start a couple of the wheel lug bolts in order to get the wheel on a little bit easier. And I thought those are kind of handy because I've had a friend with a Volkswagen and it was always a battle to deal with that stuff. Actually, I need to figure out how to get these there. And I did a comparison video, and I just did it. One because I break extractors, but Century Tool, they used to be Japanese-made extractors, but they didn't have as aggressive of flutes. They remade them, new packaging, much tighter, just a totally different design, but they're made in China, and I really don't know which set is truly better, to be honest. I think these are also a Harbor Freight item. These are tubing and pipe extractors, and how they work is they just have this cam, so what happens is one side grabs one side of the tube, and then the corrugations on the part that you're turning grab the other, and so as you twist it, that expands out, and then that's how it extracts a tube. They grab pretty well, but some of the issues I've read about is the fact that sometimes those pipe nipples and fittings, air fittings that have been stuck or break off tend to be so stuck that when you use one of these, this part here actually presses out and it dents or creates a protrusion in the remaining piece of pipe or the pipe nipple, and actually can make it even more difficult to extract. So they're kind of, this depends on your luck. 3 different common sizes of those. Get them out of the way here. Also did a video about these Performance Tool. These are interesting because these are socket head cap screw or Allen screw extractors, and how they're designed is they fit in there and they have these cutouts, and they're designed to kind of raise a burr inside the stripped out fastener. to try to give a little bit of extra grab. As far as reviews, some people have had luck. Some people say once it's stripped out, as soon as you try to use one of these, they end up just stripping out even more. But some people have said they worked, and since I like collecting tools, figured I'd give those a shot. Some random dowel centers. Have more, a bunch of just kind of random miscellaneous square extractors that I've collected up. This is a 2-piece spiral lug nut extractor set. This is a more kind of old school square extractor. The way it has more classic forging. That is an old proto though. I have this extractor, which is pretty interesting. I actually think this is indeed a Black & Decker, and how, let's see, we have this long needle here in these jaws, and what happens is if you loosen this up quite a bit, it allows these jaws to retract in, and then you put it into the end of the pipe. You thread this down until these jaws really grip tightly, and then you turn on this big hex. And I thought that's kind of an interesting way to do an extractor, because you get to manually apply a bunch of pressure and then twist it out. And these tend to work a little bit better, I think, than the other style that I just showed. We have a little pack of Craftsman stubby extractors. These things are pretty neat. Plus some others that I don't even remember, but these are like a torque screw. They're just made out of very hard steel, and they have 8 points, and those just drive in, make some splines on whatever you drive them into, and they try to extract. These Craftsmans are, a very similar style, except for their 12-point, simple spline drive type extractors. I just liked how super tiny and compact they were, and I like concentrating things, so that's somehow I ended up just putting them all in this one little package here. And like a garage sale or something, or like one of the tool junk stores I end up running into, just a bunch of random loose Hansons, so I decided to put those in there. Random stuff. These are like these diamond files. I always forget what they're used for, but I thought they were kind of neat and probably would come in handy at some point. So threw them in there kind of as more random stuff. This is a cutter for cutting the glue out of automotive windows, but I thought it was a kind of a handy tool because there's a variety of situations where you may want to slice along something. The biggest complaint is that these tangs can break off, but this just has a handle. You get it up under the edge of the piece of glass or whatever you're trying to separate, and then you have this to pull and this to hold on to keep everything stable. A set of performance tool basic extractors. These were kind of interesting because they're kind of a hybrid both of square and spiral. Then I have these, which are spiral flute external extractors, but they're all set up to be used in an impact driver. And I thought, at some point those may be actually come in handy. A couple other magnifying glasses I use, like loops. I don't even know what that is. Some weird thing that says cat. And I have a little random set of protos. I have these OEM tools ones, which I thought were interesting because they were like screw thread extractors. I mean, many of them, I like these Napas where they have kind of a more coarser spiral to them. But I thought these OEM tools was at least an interesting design change. I do have some of the old American-made Napa extractors, including the spiral, square, and then a new, both. I remember when I got these a long time ago. I got the red set, which is the original Made in USA set. And then these are both the Napa Professional 900 series, but then they ended up going to being made in Taiwan, which are still good quality, but still a little bit sad to see that Napa went away from American-made extractors. And get those organized. Here's another weird set of external extractors. I just like them because they are really compact, and they are like a spline drive, except for external this time. And that's how these things work. You just hammer them on, and it works just like adding a nut, and you can unthread. And I thought, why not? kind of an interesting style or design choice there. Get that out of the way. Whenever, you know, since extractors only have a finite life, if either they break or if you use them just a few times, especially in really hard bolts, they really gouge out the thread. So they're the kind of thing that when I see ones randomly, I pick them up just because I know there'll be a time which I'll end up, you know, burning through a couple of them or something, trying to get out a particularly tough fastener. Oh, I do remember these. I was pretty stoked. This is the Blue Point REX10 set. So this is a spiral extractor. The Hansons are one piece. These on the larger sizes are one piece, but on the smaller sizes they are, interestingly enough, they're a two-piece design. I thought that was kind of curious, and it was just an old, you know, Blue Point set. Here I have some more random extractors, and these things, which were these Titan tools. These are like ultra compact extractor nuts, and they still confuse me, to tell you the truth. I think the idea is that when a bolt's stripped, there still is a little bit of a flat. So you'll tap these on, and then you drive them with a 12 point, which kind of puts some pressure on the center. And I just thought that they were an interesting idea to begin with. I know some people commented that they don't work so well as actual extractors, but if you have a bolt that you think is going to strip out or is already partially stripped, that you tap these on, and they just enhance it by having a very tight fit and then allowing you to drive with the 12 point. They're probably really not very worth it, but why not? All these little extractors, they've made a variety of designs. These are some kind of weird thing that Craftsman made for a while, which was an integrated left-hand drill bit. And a lot of times, if you have left-hand drills, when they catch, they'll remove the broken off fastener. But the way these work, I have to zoom in a little bit here because when I'm in the widescreen mode, this thing can't focus very well. So you drill, and then once you have it drilled, you put it down into the hole, and then you screw, I guess like that. You screw the extractor in, and then put a little wrench, or it's a 4-point, and try to twist it out. They're kind of an interesting idea, but in practice they're really funky, and I never used them and probably never will, just because this whole extractor collar system just doesn't seem super great. I have another old set of Craftsman extractors. These just happen to be really low profile spiral external extractors. I guess I have some more extractors down here. What are these? Oh yeah, these are just basically a thin wall spiral flute external extractor. And I kind of like this set just specifically for that, because many times these extractors are pretty thick. So these are not the strongest because of the thin walls, but they'll get into areas where a fastener's down in a bore or where it's really close to something. And I kind of like this set because it included a pin to knock out the nut or the bolt, because they do tend to get stuck inside those extractor sets. And then I have, I believe, a couple of Hanson sets. Oh yeah, so this is my Hanson external extractor set, nice American made. And then one of these, I think I bought this 12 years ago. This was like the first extractor set I ever bought, and I got it on sale, and that's why I even have it, which was the big Hanson Master set. A little bit of corrosion, but I've occasionally oiled these, and that's how you prevent these kind of tools from stripping out. I think even Harbor Freight Icon now has big 25-piece master extractor sets, but that's the whole point, is you just have one of just every possible size. These things do wear out, but going from whatever this is, 1/8 inch through 7/8, definitely pretty darn handy. And it's just kind of nice to see a big array of extractors like that. And I do have sets of Exolite nut drivers that I keep in, that I actually have the original plastic cases, so they're not in here, so I even have more than I really need. I guess I should, to finish this up, we do have some fatties like this. This is a 1-inch proto spiral flute extractor. That is a chunk right there. And obviously a massive fastener if you actually need something like that. And then of course they make these in absolutely huge sizes. And as far as I know, it's if you really measure across the center part of the extractor for it to figure out what size it's really meant for if it isn't printed. But this is a 2-inch class spiral flute extractor, mainly for removing pipe, because if you're removing bolts that have a shank that's big enough for you to drill a 2-inch hole in it, first, good luck drilling that 2-inch hole down the center of a bolt, but it means that the shank of the bolt is going to be 2 1/4 to 2.5 inches. So if you are using these on bolts, those are going to be some monstrous, absolutely monstrous fasteners. And there you go, a short little tour of my nut driver and spiral or and extractor tool drawer. And it's things like screwdrivers and nut drivers, when you have sets of metric, fractional, stubby, regular length. I'm even slowly building up sets of the long stem vacos. They take up a bunch of space. So I have like my 1/2-inch socket drawers, which hold a whole bunch of sockets, but kind of bulkier items like these drivers and extractors just don't go quite as many miles out of the drawer. But it is nice. The thing about extractors is in situations where you need to remove something, you need to use an extractor. I found that some just don't grab. They either don't have flutes that are big enough, deep enough, they don't have the right spiral angle, or you just have to get real aggressive and take one, just hammer on the back of it till it really bites in and causes a lot of damage to them. And so really, the more variety, the better off you are, and the more likely you are to actually have success. Anyway, thanks for watching.